Here is the process I have used to found and lead a successful business with 16 amazing employees, start a thriving online course community, and grow a YouTube channel, all while raising 2 wonderful little girls, being married to a wonderful partner, all while staying in peak mental and physical shape. Let me teach you how. Step 1, set your big, hairy, audacious, noble goal, also known as your BHANG. For me, my big, hairy, audacious, noble goal was reaching a specific financial number in exchange for my ability to teach things to others. I learned about this concept from the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So over a period of 20 years, starting in 1908, Napoleon Hill interviewed hundreds of highly successful people trying to find out what were the common threads in their success. He interviewed people like Alexander Graham Bell, Thomas Edison, and Henry Ford to find what they had in common. And what he found was they all had a very specific drive to focus on just one thing and set a specific deadline for when they wanted to reach that one thing. But more importantly, he identified that they had set a pact or vow with themselves that they were going to exchange something of great value that they could offer to the world in exchange for their wealth. The other interesting thing that he found was that whatever they wanted to exchange for their wealth or for reaching their goal had to be something positive and in service of others. So through this process, Napoleon Hill encouraged his readers to take whatever their one thing is, identify what they were going to exchange for that one thing, and then plant that one thing deeply, deeply in their subconscious so that all their decisions would flow from that inner vision. So for me, I identified what my financial freedom number was. I committed to exchanging my expertise and ability to teach others complex concepts. And I also committed to doing this within a 10-year period. So once I identified my clear vision, I decided to write it down everywhere I could. One of the first things I did was take a blank journal and put my goal and when I was going to reach it at the end of that journal. Then I committed to writing down in my journal the steps I was taking each day in service of that goal. Another thing I did was find an app where I could put in my goal and the time when I wanted to reach it, and then see how many days were left each day in service of reaching my goal. And finally, I also put it in a spreadsheet that I was tracking my income and expenses so that I could see what are the small steps, even with my daily spending decisions, that I needed to take in service of my long-term goal. Step 2, use the 5-25 system to take your big, hairy, audacious, noble goal and break it into manageable chunks. So once you have that clear vision of what you want to accomplish in the next 5 to 10 years, you want to identify the top 25 things that you think could help reach your long-term goal. Now, why 25? Well, for people with a lot of ideas or that are easily distracted like myself, you probably are coming up with tons of ideas that could help you reach your goal. So I suggest write those all down in a list. And then what you want to do is you want to identify the top 5 things that are going to help you reach your big, hairy, audacious, noble goal, right? So a couple questions you could ask yourself when you're trying to figure out what should my top 5 be are, what's going to give me a raise in the next 12 weeks? Another question you could ask yourself is, what is the domino that's going to knock over all the other dominoes in service of reaching that long-term goal? So I wrote down those 25 things, then I circled the top 5 and committed to actively focusing on those top 5 while actively avoiding the other 20. Now this is where my life really started to change. When I zoned in on those top 5 things that were in service of my long-term goal, it made a huge difference in my life. I stopped pursuing all these little activities that were not in service of my big picture vision and the things that I could do better than anyone else related to that big picture goal. Now, before I set up this system, in the past, I would set a big goal, but then when something else came up that I thought might get me there quicker, I'd immediately shift my attention to that. And this is what I call shiny object syndrome. It's when you get easily distracted by the thing that looks good for the short term, but you can't stay committed to this. Now, as an adult with ADHD, I know many people struggle with this. And this is because of the dopamine deficiency related to ADHD. So many people with ADHD have a dopamine deficiency, meaning they resort to quick wins like social media likes or unhealthy behaviors that spike their dopamine, make them feel pleasure, but don't actually reward them in the long run. And with ADHD, you have to learn how to override this system by focusing on the things that you logically know will help you reach your long-term goals. So by using this system of identifying those top 5 things and ignoring the other 20, I was able to connect my long-term vision with my daily actions and feel a sense of pride and commitment around moving in the direction I really wanted my life to move. Step 3, break your top 5 goals into actionable daily tasks. Once I had my top 5 goals that were connected to my BHANG, I had to figure out a way to break those top 5 goals into daily actionable steps that would help me keep up my motivation towards my long-term vision. This is known as chunking, and it is highly critical for task initiation because realistically, it can be very difficult, scary, and overwhelming to try to take action on those long-term visions we have floating around in our mind and heart. But if we can increasingly break down those top 5 steps into small, minute, discrete daily tasks, we can make progress. Now, my older brother, Matt, who's built a very successful art and consulting business, told me that if you can commit to something for 15 minutes a day, you can learn anything. And I really took that to heart. So using this approach, I gave myself the grace and space to commit to at least 15 minutes of whatever I wanted to do each day as it related to my BHANG. Some days I did almost nothing. I might have just taken a baby step. Other days I took massive steps forward towards my goal. The most important part in this whole process is sustaining momentum. And that means not beating yourself up when you don't take action for 1 or 2 days or even a week or a month, but getting back on the train and focusing on those long-term goals and committing to those small daily steps. Because change compounds. When you're investing in yourself and taking action towards those top 5 goals, slowly over time, you start to reach them without even realizing it. Let me give you an example of this. When I was a public school teacher, I decided that I wanted to take control over my career, have a little bit more flexibility, income, and freedom. So I decided to go tutor on the side. And I didn't know how to get tutoring clients. So I started reaching out to therapists, neuropsychologists, counselors, and sharing with them that I would offer my services as a tutor. Now, at first, I didn't get any clients. In fact, I didn't get responses to most of the emails and phone calls I made. But after 6 months of reaching out, I started to get more clients than I could possibly handle. And within 1 year, I had more clients than I could work with on my own and started to hire other specialists to support my business or take my online courses. I invested over $1,000 in an online learning platform called Thinkific where I could build my courses. But I didn't make a single sale in the first 5 months. However, after I got my courses done, I was reaching out to people to share them. I was able to start selling my first courses. And slowly over time, I was able to build up my revenue from these courses. And now, last month alone, I made $4,000 in sales on my online courses. So this just goes to show, over time, if you commit to something, you really can build it up and it does compound. Step 4, limit your to-do list to no more than 5 items for each day. So you've got your BHANG, you've got your top 5 goals, but now you have to figure out, what am I doing each day? You've broken down those steps, you know what you need to do next or what the dominoes are to reaching your goal. And what you need to do each day is look at your top 5 goals, identify what action steps you can take the next day, and then what I like to do is use the Reminders app to flag up to 5 things I'm gonna work on that next day. A to-do list can go on forever and forever. And sometimes people think that they're productive because they have a highly extensive to-do list. But I don't agree with this. In fact, I call this toxic productivity. You don't wanna have an extensive to-do list so that you can't make time for your big picture vision. You wanna be able to figure out, what are those top 5 steps I can take just today that are gonna help me reach 1 or 2 of my goals. Because see, the problem that people are experiencing is that they're getting a lot done, but it's not moving them forward toward their long-term vision. And in that situation, you're kind of just like a hamster on the treadmill, being productive, but not necessarily prioritizing the things that matter. And this is another side effect of ADHD. Because with ADHD, we get that dopamine rush when we get something done. We feel like we're being productive. But the question is, are we actually making progress towards our long-term vision? I didn't get my first full-time job until my late 20s. So for me, approaching my 30s was my wake-up call that I needed to clarify what my BHANG was and start to figure out what the steps I needed to take were towards my long-term vision. As I reached that age, I realized, hey, I wanna have kids, I wanna buy a home, but if I'm not taking steps towards my goals, I'm gonna be stuck on this treadmill. And I realized if I didn't start investing in myself and clarifying my vision and charting a course, I was gonna be in the same place I was that day in the next year. So I had to figure out a pathway to moving forward and not just focusing on the day-to-day actions that caught my attention. But at the same time, there are things you're gonna have to do every day, and you've gotta interweave those into your top 5 daily steps. So what I suggest you do is look at your top 5 goals, identify 2 to 3 things that will help you take action towards your long-term vision. And then for the other 3 or 4 things that you're gonna include in your list, you can have daily to-dos like laundry, buying groceries. Have a balance between those necessary and vital daily actions, as well as those small actions that are investments in your long-term self or your future self. Now this takes a bit more nuance, but balancing those daily to-dos with the steps towards your long-term vision is what creates a system that's gonna help you make progress. Step 5, review your BHANG, top 25, and daily to-do list every day. Most nights, I look at my BHANG, I look at my top 5 goals, and I make a plan for the next day using my to-do list. Yes, I do miss some days, but every day I ask myself, what are the next most important steps in service of my long-term vision? Not how can I stay busy tomorrow? Another thing I like to do is continually practice visualization exercises that help me step into my shoes when I reach my BHANG. So I'll go through detailed exercises where I describe in writing, which helps me, what it's gonna feel like to reach my BHANG, how I'll feel, where I'll be living, what my day looks like when I'm living in the reality of reaching my big, hairy, audacious, noble goal. Another thing I do that helps me stay motivated is I look at all the goals in the parking lot or the 20 goals that I'm not working on, and I might reprioritize those to think about what's the thing I'm gonna work on once I reach one of my top 5 goals. This helps me stay motivated and focused on that big picture. Also, I take my top 5 goals and I reorder the next steps I'm gonna take on those, because as I learn new things, as I read books, attend webinars, invest in myself, I realize there's steps that I can take that I might not have thought of before. Additionally, I'm always teaching my methodology to other people via YouTube or Instagram or through my classes or to my team, because I committed to teaching these methodologies to others in exchange for reaching my long-term vision. Now, do I miss some days or fall off the wagon or just stop working on my goals? No. Just kidding. Of course I do. However, I do set up systems to help with those times where I don't feel motivated, like getting sunlight in the morning, spending time with friends, getting exercise, eating healthy. All those things keep me motivated on the path to reaching my goals. And the other way to think of it is that success is not binary. It's not you're failing or you're doing perfect. It's more like an average. On more days than not, are you getting up and working on those big picture goals and taking daily actions? If you're doing it more often than not and you're batting a pretty good average, you're going to reach those long-term visions before you know it. So that is how I juggle fatherhood, being married, being the CEO of a business, having a YouTube channel, all while staying in shape and trying to have fun as much as possible. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and do me a favor, drop a comment below sharing what your big, hairy, audacious, noble goal is so we can support you in this community on reaching it. I'll see you in the next video.